This is CBC Here and Now.
Tonight, hundreds of employees blindsided by the news.
Rona is shutting its doors in 3 months. Good evening, I'm Anthony Germain.
And I'm Debbie Cooper, and we begin tonight with an economic blow for the province.
Today, Lowe's announced that it's going to close 31 Rona locations right across Canada, and 6 of them are in Newfoundland and Labrador. It means hundreds of people are going to lose their jobs.
But it's not just employees who will be hurt by this. Some contractors will lose an important source of financing. Here now's Carolyn Stokes is live outside Rona in St. John's. Carolyn, let's start with the employees. How are they reacting to all of this?
Well, Debbie, the reaction was shock, disappointment, and for some, tears. Many of the employees have been working at this company for decades, starting back when Rona was the locally owned Chester Daw. Last night, they were all called to a meeting at the stores, a mystery meeting, not really knowing what was going on, and then they found out they were going to lose their jobs.
Definitely a lot of tears shed.
The axe fell hard. 321 Rona employees lost their jobs, and Devin Hocko says they didn't see it coming.
It was really sly, and it was kind of a low blow.
The union representing the workers was also blindsided.
A terrible shock and bad timing 2 months before Christmas. A lot of the people that work at those stores, we have, a husband and wife team. It's not just a severe economic blow to every family that works there, but for some of them, it's the complete income for their family.
3 St. John's stores will close, along with locations in Conception Bay, Gould's, and Bay Roberts. Independently owned Ronas in Fortune and Wabush will stay open. Stephen Quinlan has been on the job for a little over a week. He feels for those who devoted decades to the company.
It was pretty sad in there. There's people losing their jobs, some people crying in there. It's just wasn't a good thing to watch out there. Boss been working here for almost 30 years. And then one day they just come in and they're all gone.
Now they have until January 27th to find a new job.
It's only a couple months away, and it's really messed up for people who literally survive off this job. They don't have any time.
Well, it certainly sounds like an emotional meeting last night, Carolyn. What about the ripple effect of all this? Pretty big.
Absolutely. It's not just the employees affected by this. Some contractors, home builders, renovators, and the homeowners that hire them are also affected by this. Rona sometimes finances home builders, fronting them the materials to get projects started. And this afternoon, the local chapter of the Canadian Home Builders Association held an emergency meeting to discuss what this closure means for them and their members. CEO Victoria Belbin says fewer contractors these days rely on financing from Rona than in years past.
Chester Dawes had that model, that business model in place, but we have a different industry today. Not as many businesses, from what I understand, take advantage of that relationship. But today, we're here to help our members through that change and help build those relationships with other suppliers.
And Belbin says this is an opportunity for those other building supply companies to step in and fill the void left by Rona. And even though Lowe's says it's closing these stores because they're underperforming, Belbin says that the construction industry in this province is still going strong. Reporting live in St. John's, I'm Carolyn Stokes for Here and Now.
Now, Rona's predecessor, Chester Daw, as Carolyn mentioned, has quite a legacy in this province, especially known for its big Regatta Day sales.
As I get a sink in a bathtub, less than $100.
Now, Chester Daw's Paradise location would often have really long lines on Regatta Day, people trying to get inside to get that big deal. And that location would stay open on the big day because Paradise didn't recognize it as a civic holiday. Now, the retailer's legacy started back in 1945 when Chester Daw founded that business, and it expanded across the province over the coming years. It then sold to Rona in 2006. That was at a time when Rona was aggressively trying to spread the company right across the country. Now, Rona kept that famous Regatta Day sale going. 2 years ago, American retailer Lowe's bought out Rona, but decided to keep that Rona name. The stores are all set to close on January the 27th.
Well, forget your shoes if you visit the Neary household in Portugal Cove, St. Philip's. You've got to ditch your socks too, and it's all for safety. The couple doesn't want to risk someone slipping on their sawdust-covered floors. The mess is being made by a beetle infestation, one that'd give a team of termites a run for their money. CBC's Fred Hutton explains.
This is where the major part of the problem had initiated.
When Tina and Brian Neary were house shopping in 2012, these hardwood floors sealed the deal. What they didn't count on was what was living inside those gleaming boards.
When it started, there were 3 to 4 tiny little sawdust holes in our bedroom floor. Now, the pictures will show there are floorboards upon floorboards that have been completely infested. They've eaten away and left raw wood open on the floor, and it's in every room.
The first sign of trouble was 2 years after moving in. They called a pest control company. Then came the big surprise.
They said at that point that that's what they believed it to be, was these powder post beetles.
Brian and Tina never heard of powder post beetles, but just a week after they got the verdict from pest control, they saw a story on Here and Now.
So this is where it all happened.
A couple in Paradise had the same problem. Tina Neary reached out to the couple, but they couldn't talk because of a non-disclosure agreement in their settlement. As the mounds of dust created by the beetles spread throughout their home, the Nearys learned it would take a mound of money to fix the problem.
About $23,000 just to treat the house. Everything else that came along with that ended up with a price tag in total, not insured. I mean, this would be out of our pockets without their assistance, of about $86,000.
That quote was from 3.5 years ago. J-Sonic, the manufacturer of the flooring, offered them $23,000 to fumigate the house, but would not cover the other costs of moving out and replacing the flooring. The Nearys refused the offer and hired a lawyer. We contacted the lawyer representing Costco and J-Sonic. David Hearn said he could not comment on the matter because it's in the discovery phase. Brian and Tina Neary say this whole process has been a nightmare, and they just want the problem fixed.
It's very frustrating. We've been at this now since 2014, and we don't know why people are not addressing this. Like, would they come here and live in this house? I don't think so. Who'd want this?
Fred Hutton, CBC News, St. John's.
You put the raspberries on the side.
Still ahead tonight, meet 8-year-old Noah Squire from Eastport. His recipe for Snowberry Delight breakfast bars was just published in a national cookbook. He's in the kitchen with CBC Newfoundland Morning's Martin Jones.
Well, the opposition is questioning the government over its weed deals. The Tories are trying to find out if the Liberals are financially helping their Liberal supporters. Here Now's Katie Breen joins us from the newsroom now. So Katie, just what are the Tories up to?
Well, they were asking about lobbyists, people who campaign for a company trying to get government attention. You might remember these pictures from Friday. They're from Biome Grome announcing a weed facility for Bay St. George, the biggest in the province. It turns out Gary Anstey lobbied government on behalf of the company. Gary Anstey was the executive assistant to former Liberal Premier Brian Tobin. The PCs today raised the connection between Anstey and the Liberal Party.
Underlying all this is the need to preserve the public's confidence in the integrity of the government's involvement in the economy when monies of this magnitude are being invested. Was all of this necessary? It may not be that there's ever going to be a black and white answer, but it's our role to raise these questions and to try and keep the government honest on these issues.
In reaction, Industry and Innovation Minister Christopher Mitchellmore said people working in the private sector get to determine who they work with. He said it was preposterous to insinuate that Liberals, this current government, was only working with other Liberals.
This is not a matter, as I said in the House of Assembly, a matter of anybody with any particular affiliation. There is no checkbox in an application. We are open for business all across Newfoundland and Labrador in all industries, and we want to make sure that the private sector continues to reach out.
Last week, the Tories were asking about Canopy, the other weed company doing business in this province. They wanted to know whether a Liberal owned the land that Canopy was building its facility on, but the Tories have yet to get that answer. Reporting live from the newsroom, I'm Katie Breen for Here and Now.
We want.
More Canada Post employees are on the picket line in Newfoundland today, including these workers in Corner Brook. It is the latest in a series of countrywide rotating strikes. The Canadian Union of Postal Workers is putting pressure on the federal government after negotiators failed to reach an agreement. The union says it's looking for wage increases, an end to forced overtime, and better health and safety protection. Workers also walked off the job in Gander, Carbonear, Deer Lake, the Exploits Valley, St. Anthony, and Stephenville.
Well, heavy winds right across the island yesterday caused some headaches and a lot of damage. In Corner Brook, for instance, the winds ripped the side of this old school that you're looking at. A lot of damage there. And here in St. John's, this billboard, not a match. There it goes, despite trying to hang on. The wind eventually getting the better of it. And that was certainly a scene you could see in various parts of the city yesterday. And if, like me, you probably, if you have any kind of fireplace or anything, were your houses howling at all over the weekend with the wind whipping up?
Mine was howling. Right. The vent over the stove was
click, 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 click. Yes,
yeah.
True. Yeah.
The water in my toilets was. It's the first time I've experienced that.
Yeah, Newfoundland is a place where you get white caps and a toilet bowl. It's not many places have that. Claim to fame.
That's what happened.
Heard of that.
It totally happened. It was moving, and I was like, "What is happening?" Yeah, it was windy. Very windy this weekend.
You know it's windy when.
Yeah, exactly. You know, those winds finally did die down though today, but we did see a little bit of white stuff out in the metro area today. That was nice this morning. If we take a look at the radar from today, we saw it earlier today. That since moved off. The sun has come out, and that's the case essentially across the entire island. Anyway, we saw clear breaks at some point earlier this afternoon. We're seeing that cloud cover push in. That's going to continue to do so as we head through the night tonight ahead of the next system that's already prompting a couple of warnings. For right now, we do have a wreck house warning in place. Winds are going to pick up tomorrow night and then gusting upwards of about 100 kilometers per hour, it looks like. And then that same system already have a special weather statement in effect for parts of Labrador. More snow is on the way. I'll have all those details coming up in a little bit.
Thanks, Ashley. A plan to fix financial oversight problems at the English School District is on the way to the provincial government. School board trustees gave it the green light at this meeting over the weekend. The price tag is about $2 million a year in the first 2 years to put new financial systems in place, and more than $1 million a year after that for additional staff. All this comes in the wake of a stinging report by the Auditor General. She found pervasive rule breaking and oversight problems at the school district that went on for years.
In essence, it directs the senior staff to take measures to prevent what has happened from happening again and to monitor things as closely as they can. This is a plan that is ambitious, comprehensive, and to tell the truth, will be costly.
Irresponsible and gullible. That's how the government that sanctioned the Muskrat Falls project was characterized at the ongoing inquiry today. That criticism intensified after it was revealed that some middle managers called on the province to delay the project back in early 2012. Here now's Mark Quinn reports.
Terry Padden was the province's Deputy Minister of Finance from 2004 to mid-2012. On the stand today, he faced tough questions about financial oversight in the years leading up to sanction of the project in December 2012.
I think at the time, there was as much concern. I think we understood that it was a big project, there were lots of moving parts.
Inquiry counsel Barry Learmont said the government failed to properly scrutinize Nalcor's Muskrat Falls cost estimates. Padden responded that senior government officials were providing oversight.
And I would suggest to you that these senior people were, with great gullibility, swallowing whole all of the project cost estimates by Nalcor without any review.
Padden was also questioned about a 2012 Department of Finance information note from mid-level public servants in his department. It called on the government to delay a decision on Muskrat Falls for 1 to 2 years, to allow for full assessment of alternatives and complete analysis, to ensure the province wasn't saddled with a massive debt. Padden said he never saw that note.
It's just astounding. I mean, here is the biggest project we've ever done in our history, the riskiest project, even at the time people must have realized was going to be risky. And our senior public servants seem to be totally compliant to the wishes of Nalcor. It really is shocking, and it is a disgraceful indictment of our public service.
It was also revealed that top officials at both the Finance and Natural Resources Department did eventually call for greater independent scrutiny of Nalcor's numbers. But for reasons that haven't been explained yet, that never happened. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Ahead, 178 people in Atlantic Canada have been killed as a result of ATVs and snowmobiles since 2012.
CBC Investigates crunches the numbers to find common factors. Stay tuned.
The Duke of Edinburgh Volunteer Hall of Fame Gala honors exceptional volunteers here in Newfoundland and Labrador. Join Fred Hutton and myself, Chrissy Holmes, on November the 15th for an evening of celebration and inspiration as we pay tribute to this year's newest inductees. For more information or to purchase tickets, you can always check out the website, volunteerhalloffame.ca.
Weather update is brought to you by Harvey's Home Heating. Complete furnace replacement if yours cannot be repaired. That's furnace freedom. Visit harveyshomeheating.ca for more.
back once again. Before we get to the weather, we have some really interesting video. It's kind of rarely seen, I would think, on video. Have a look.
Yeah, Tony Moyles posted this video to Facebook, and what you're seeing there, if you take a look, those little ears, very sort of definitive, that is a lynx doing a doggy paddle, something like a caddy paddle across Gander Lake. That video was shared on Saturday, which you can tell because it's pretty smooth. Fewer waves than in Ashley's toilet bowl. Right there. Yeah. It's funny, Debbie, you mentioned like you don't see them often, but I think this is like this. They've been on Here and Now a few times the last month or two.
Something's happening with the environment.
Just making an appearance.
Beautiful creatures.
They are.
Yeah. They're tired of all the anonymity. They decided to come forward.
That's right. Yeah, so you just mentioned those waves. If you take a look at the photo that was sent in from Stephenville, this is actually the road to Little Port Harmon. Aiden sent us this photo, that damage from the storm surge and the winds. Yeah.
I'm not surprised. It was so strong.
The winds were,
The surge, I mean, that's a lot of power to move that much rock onto the road like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And taking a look at some of the winds that we saw from today, or from the weekend rather, winds gusting upwards of 119 kilometers per hour for Port aux Basques. The strongest is actually in Engly at 133 kilometers per hour, and then you can see a number of areas across the Avalon saw between 100 and 110 kilometers per hour on Sunday, and then those winds eventually did die down. But temperatures significantly cooler than we saw this weekend. Here's a look at the current temperatures right now. Drop down to 0 degrees for St. John's Gander, sitting at 2, Corner Brook at 0 degrees as well. And then we've got those cooler temperatures up through Labrador, -2, and Happy Valley Goose Bay, Lab City sitting at -5 right now. Now, we did see a pretty beautiful day, albeit quite cold, as you just saw there. We are starting to see some cloud cover move in, though, and that will be the story as we head through the night tonight. If we zoom out a little bit, you can see all of that cloud cover will continue to track towards the island, and then even parts of Labrador through the night tonight. And then taking a look at that future tracker, we'll see all of that cloud cover push in. We might see a few flurries for the northern peninsula. Best chance of flurries will be in Labrador for Lab City through the night tonight. And then into tomorrow, more cloud cover moving in, but could see some peaks of sun, likely seeing some peaks of sun into the afternoon for parts of Central. Down along the south coast, Burin and the southern Avalon will likely stay cloudy through the day tomorrow. And then we'll see that next system move in and bring some rain again through the afternoon, and already have a wind warning for the Wreck House area as we see those southeast flow develop. So winds will be generally light tonight for the most part right across the island, -3 down for Grand Falls, Windsor, likely going down to a low between 0 and -1 for St. John's with partly cloudy skies. And then again, that increasing cloud for the rest of the island. Happy Valley Goose Bay, -7 tonight. And then again, we'll see that chance of flurries for Lab City, and -9 winds along the coast, though, out of the west at 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. Nain mainly clear, and -5. And then as we look at tomorrow's forecast, that's when everything should, all that rain will move in. Not till later on in the day, though, mainly for the south coast, then moving northeast through the day. Could pick up about 10 to 20 millimeters of rain there. For now, Marystown as well, 7 degrees. We're going to see that towards the evening hours for St. John's, -5. And then we'll see that snow develop for portions of Labrador. Already have that special weather statement in effect. It'll start in Lab City first, -1 as the afternoon high tomorrow. Same for Happy Valley Goose Bay. The snow won't really start there until the early morning hours, but we could see some significant snowfall again, somewhere between 15 and 30 centimeters. I'll have all those details coming up in a little bit.
A CBC News investigation has found 178 people have died on snowmobiles and ATVs in Atlantic Canada since 2012. It's a way of life and a pastime for many, but it's taking too many lives. And for those who have lost a loved one, the cost of the accidents are still painful. Jack Julian reports.
Carrie McDougall walks on the beach at Stanhope PEI. Her mind is on her late husband. Daryl McDougall worked at this national park for 20 years, but Carrie had loved him long before that.
We got together, we dated a little bit as much as you date in grade 8. and then we broke up and we started dating again in grade 12. And we were together ever since.
Daryl McDougall's co-workers built this bench to remember a man they loved too.
You could count on him to get the work done, but he always had fun. He was always smiling and laughing.
Collier remembers the moment he got the terrible news from Daryl's brother.
He called me to let me know. Sorry. Yeah, he just let me know that Daryl passed away and what had happened, and I had to start making some calls.
Daryl's brother, Mo McDougall, loves the thrill of a ride. A paratrooper in the military for 31 years, he knows all about danger and safety. He warned his brother when Daryl took up ATVing a year before his death.
So I told him, I said, you know, Daryl, you got to watch yourself in these ATVs, you know, because one wrong move, things can go bad for you. And ultimately, you know, he said, you know, don't worry about it, kid. Everything's good.
And everything was good until the last weekend of July in 2017. After a day on the trails, Daryl McDougall's last ride was to park his ATV in his friend's shed.
They had just a couple drinks. He said he was going to go put it away in the barn. So he jumped on it, thought he'd do a quick spin, I guess, around the house. Did a spin around the house, lost control, and hit a tree. He was just going to put it in the barn, so he didn't put his helmet on. Where normally he always wears a helmet.
A momentary lapse, which left a family and a community on a long trail of grief. It's a story and a loss that is repeating itself over and over across the region. CBC News has gathered data on every fatal ATV and snowmobile crash in Atlantic Canada since 2012. 154 of 178 riders who died were male. 44% of accidents involved alcohol or drug impairment. 1 in 5 deaths involved riders without helmets, like Daryl McDougall.
You know, we're making it through, and you know, I definitely miss him every second of every day. But
Jack Julian, CBC News, Halifax.
As part of the Fatal Fun series, we looked into the story of Ryan Compton, a Lewisport man who was killed when a snowmobile rolled on top of him last year. He was 31 years old. His widow, Katie May, spoke with Here and Now's Peter Gullidge.
If he was going in the back of the woods, I know he would wear a helmet, but unfortunately, if it was just like there's a track like going right across here, so if he was going down the road or in Lewisport side, no, he would not bother to wear his helmet probably 60% of the time, unless I herped at him to. So not in town, but if he was going out, yes, he would. He was trying to park his skidoo, so he was down to our friend's house. It was a few streets down that way on the skidoo. So he was out with his friends, and he texted me around, I think it was 11:15, and he said, I'll be home soon. I don't know exactly what happened, but from what I do know, there's like along the road right here is like a huge snowbank. Like that's where the snow obviously comes around a corner. So he was trying to take the skidoo, park it on top of the snowbank at the time, and from what I think happened when he tried to park it on top of the snowbank, the skidoo turned over on top of him and he hit his head on the concrete. So he had like blunt force trauma to the back of his head. So he wasn't wearing a helmet, so obviously when he hit his head back, he done something and he passed instantly.
What about now? It's been a while.
Yeah.
Over a year, right?
Yeah.
So what's it been like the last year and a bit?
It was hard at first because, I mean, he was the father of my child too, right? So, I mean, I had him gone. He was my best friend. He was my husband. I had him gone. So it was me and Carly. So I did have Carly to help me through it, which was really easy because I had her to rely on. So, I mean, if I broke, like, I couldn't break down because, I mean, if I did, what was she gonna do?
In Newfoundland, the law is you have to wear a helmet if you're riding an ATV, but not if you're riding a snowmobile.
What?
Yeah.
Not if you're riding a snowmobile. You don't have to wear a helmet on a snowmobile. Really? That should be changed. That really? You're serious? That is ridiculous to me. I did not know that. Well, that should be changed. Yeah, that should be changed. That's ridiculous to me. If you're in anything, especially open, like a quad, what's the difference between a skidoo and a quad? Why do you have to wear a helmet on an ATV and no, not a skidoo? No, that's stupid to me. That should be changed, definitely.
So Newfoundland and Labrador is the province where you're most likely to die riding on a snowmobile or an ATV.
Now you can get more information. Just head to our website, cbc.ca/NL, to read more about the story and about some of the families that have been affected by this.
And stay tuned for more stories from our Fatal Fun series that's coming up over the next 2 weeks.
I'm feeling happy when I cook, yeah.
Bringing her love of food to the masses, a Syrian refugee turned businesswoman in Corner Brook. I'll take you to a brand new restaurant in the city.
Welcome back to Here and Now. A Syrian woman is sharing her love of cooking and food with the people of Corner Brook. The Jasmine restaurant opened in the West Coast city 2 years after Mesa and her family arrived as refugees. Here and Now's Colleen Connors has her story.
An evening snack for Mesa El Omar's family. Tabbouleh.
Tomato. This is burger. and this is olive oil, salt, pepper, and juice lemon.
She molds the fresh ingredients into a salad of sorts. The smell? So fresh. She spends a lot of time in this kitchen.
Oh, it's kind of salty.
Yes.
Oh, it's good.
I don't know, but I love to cook, and I'm feeling happy when I cook.
So happy that she decided to share her dishes with the public and open a small restaurant in the center of town. Al Omar, her husband, and 3 children fled Syria 3 years ago, landing in Newfoundland in November 2016. She left a lot of her life behind, except these traditional dishes. Now, Corner Brook is home.
We can't bring all the family. I bring with me the recipe of the food. Yeah.
Jasmine Syrian food opened this weekend with great success. So good, in fact, that they ran out of food, and there was a lineup through the restaurant on Saturday and Sunday.
Extremely busy. I think everybody was run off their feet. I know that there were some sleepless nights.
Al Omar, along with her family and volunteers, cooked long into the night, preparing more food for this week. Today, another line of hungry customers waiting to try the list of dishes.
I love kabsa, rice, yes, with chicken, and tabbouleh, hummus.
Everybody I've talked to has loved the food, and even if they've never tried it before, they seem to really enjoy it. If they have tried it before, they're saying it's some of the best they've ever had, you know.
And the orders just keep coming in. Colleen Connors, CBC News, Corner Brook.
Well, let's stay with food and move on to the desserts. A particularly patriotic pastry has launched a boy from Eastport into the pages of a national cookbook. Noah Squire is 8 years old, and he is soon going to be published in Kid Food Nation Cookbook. And that's because he won a recipe contest put off by the Boys and Girls Club of Canada and the President's Choice Charity Group. Now, needless to say, we wanted a lesson wherever desserts are concerned. So Martin Jones, the host of CBC's Newfoundland Morning, headed out to Eastport.
Just by chance, we happen to have all the ingredients here. How lucky is that, eh? All right, so I'm going to let you start. You're the award-winning chef. Wait, before we start, you've got to have your special hat. Okay, oh, shoot. Okay, there we go. Perfect. Great, we're ready to go. I'm not a very good cook. No, not a lot of 8-year-olds like dates. So what made you decide to use dates?
I didn't really, but when my mom made it, she had dates in it.
Okay. So she maybe suggested it. Okay. You know what, this is a pretty healthy dessert, right? I mean,
yeah.
Why is it important for you to eat healthy food? Yeah. Why is that?
So you go, you put it in the freeze.
Okay.
Or the fridge.
In the fridge, okay. So I think, through the magic of television, we might already have one done, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go check for you. Ha ha ha, look at that. No, have you always liked cooking? And baking?
Sometimes.
Yeah? What kind of stuff do you normally like to cook and eat?
I like grouse.
You like what?
Grouse.
Grouse?
Yeah.
All right, wow, okay, I wasn't expecting that answer. You know, usually like 8-year-olds like pizza and chicken fingers and stuff. You like dates and grouse. What else do you like?
Pizza.
Yeah.
I feel like
You. I thought you were gonna say like liver and onions or something like that. No? Okay, good. I'm gonna try one without the berries. Then. No, that's really good. So that's delicious. So what's gonna be your next recipe? Are you already working on something new?
No.
Not yet. You have a title to uphold here, right?
Yeah.
Are you gonna enter the contest next year?
No.
No?
I think my sister might though.
Oh, okay. Any advice for her? No?
No.
No, that's it. She can figure it out herself. All right, well, listen, Noah, thanks for talking to me today, and thanks for making this.
It's very messy.
It sounds really good.
It's good, but messy.
Oh boy.
Now, not a boy of many words with all that dessert to eat. Now, Newfoundland and Labrador is going to be well represented in the cookbook. This is Rebecca Brent, also 8 years of age, and she's a member of the Boys and Girls Club in Botwood, and she's going to be published for her somewhat more savory recipe, a garlic mousse melt recipe.
100 years, 100
And this
faces.
could have gone anywhere. This is a piece that is already getting national attention, and we wanted it here.
We'll take you to the unveiling of a new monument in St. John's honoring veterans of the First World War.
End up looking like this.
With radio, we are talking to you. It's such a cozy, intimate forum. The plus side about working on the weekends is that there's an incredible number of people out there doing all sorts of things. Like I just find people, when they have spare time, they're creative. Anybody that's a listener of Weekend AM knows that I'm obsessed with knitting. I also love music, anything from classical to punk. The coolest thing I've ever done was get a ride in a monster truck.
So how do we get in?
I met Dawn Cretin, who's one of the women who are monster truck drivers. I got to climb up in her humongous monster truck and she drove me around the track. I'm in a running club. I'm an active runner. It's very meditative. If you're running anywhere in this province, you're probably running somewhere scenic. You're breathing in fresh air. I have a friend that says on a good run, you can solve the problems of the world.
Well, just take a look at this. It's the latest piece of public art in St. John's by Morgan MacDonald. 100 bronzed faces of 100 descendants of soldiers from this province who fought in the First World War. Now, MacDonald unveiled his sculpture at Victoria Park. Happened yesterday.
When I began this project 4 years ago, my hope was to create something unique and challenging to our usual expectations. As you'll see, this is not a traditional piece, and it is unique in its aesthetic. As many of you will already know, the design is based on the iconic oval frame. This is why I've asked you to bring along the portraits of your loved ones. The oval frame is one that is familiar to many families across the province. Many of these portraits hang across mantels, kitchen tables, and legions around the inlets and bays of this province.
For me, it's a memory of my great-uncle, Gordon Bastow, who died in World War I. And I took part in having the face mask done, and purely for the commemoration for Gordon.
It's very moving for them to stand in for their loved ones, and a lot of these people, the vast majority of them have passed away, and so, you know, when they're remembering their great uncle or their grandfather, and in the rarer cases their father who've passed on, they're really coming here to remember them and their lives. So to them, I think it's very moving, and it's just and to have all the families together in one spot, I think that's incredibly special to have a placeholder and a location that they can come and reflect on that memory.
Now, one of the faces that you saw there in Morgan MacDonald's sculpture belongs to Peter Collins, and his grandfather was Stanley Gillum, and this is his story.
My name is Peter Collins. This is my grandfather, Stanley Gillum. My grandfather enlisted in the Royal Newfoundland Regiment in May of 1917. When I was younger, I heard stories about when he was wounded. What surprised me was that he was taken off the field by 2 German prisoners of war. My mother, when she was young, she asked him about if he was afraid, and he said no, because they were just as happy to get out of there. These were young men who enlisted with the thought that this was going to be a quick war, which it wasn't, and we all know. A lot of them never made it back, and those that made it back didn't really, as they say, I mean, they were shell-shocked or PTSD, and we didn't know about it at the time. So it's important to remember what they went through to protect us. I'm proud of him for what he did. My brother and my sister and my brother's girlfriend and myself, we traveled to Belgium, and we were on the site of Keyberg Ridge on September 29th of this year, and we paid tribute to him, and it's important to me, and it's important for us to remember.
Okay, so
we've actually, obviously we're heading up to the big date, which is going to mark the 100th anniversary of the Battle of Beaumont-Hamel.
yeah, and we did have some actors bring to life some letters from the war, letters sent back to families here in this province from the front. And over this week, as we build to the 100th anniversary of the end of the First World War, we'll bring you some of those letters again.
And we're going to start tonight with this letter from Annie Hollett. This was written today, 103 years ago.
November 5th, 1915, St. John's. Dear Sir, seeing by paper of November 4th that 5 nurses were going to England as war nurses and others are needed, I want to ask you, isn't there any other way to get lessons on nursing than from the St. John's Ambulance Association? I wrote you before concerning first aid and received your letter saying another class will not be started until the new year. As I would give my service freely if only I had the opportunity. Will you please furnish me with particulars, and I will be more than obliged. I remain, Annie Hollett.
December 12th, 1915. Dear Mrs. Fitzgerald, I want to be one of the first from the firing line to write and console you on the loss of your son, Jack. who has been dispenser and dresser for me since Captain Carty handed him over to me on the Magnetic in the Mediterranean. I need not touch on his sterling, upright, and honest character, for I found him in all our relations at work the essence of reliability, but I feel I must tell you of the noble death. He died this morning. Some men were shot by snipers behind our lines this morning, and though as dispenser he might have sat still and let the stretcher bearers bring in the wounded, he was on his feet at once and rushed out to render first aid. In doing so, he fell a prey to the deadly sniper while he was dressing McLeod. He was wounded but still went on with his work, receiving unfortunately 3 or 4 more wounds, one of which proved fatal. His loss, while it must be a great blow to you, will be felt almost as deeply by the officers and men of the 1st Newfoundland Regiment, who join with me in sending their sincerest sympathy. Believe me, yours faithfully, M.O., 1st Newfoundland Regiment, Alexander Frew.
Welcome back once again.
You know, earlier we were just mentioning, you made that comment.
Which
about
one? I make many.
The wind.
About the wind in the toilet.
Yes.
Or not in the toilet, but making whitecaps in
in
the
your
toilet.
bathroom, yeah.
Yeah, and here now viewers quite sent to me.
That's fantastic.
It's so windy that there are whitecaps in the toilet.
Yep.
That's what it said.
Not bad.
How great is that?
Yeah, you should market that. Yeah, Brawweiler's Tempest in a Toilet, and you can sort of like, you know, people are always looking for products. That's amazing.
There you go. Great shot, or not great shot, great photo there.
And very quick,
too. Where
too.
did that come from? Do you recall?
Keith Whitehead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's funny. Or White Weight. Oh, crap. I
White
don't
cap.
remember. Yeah, White Cap.
Thank you.
That's right. Thank you for sending that in. That was great. You know, we've been talking about the snow a lot in Labrador. If we take a look at some of the totals so far since the beginning of October in Happy Valley Goose Bay, 104 centimeters, 104.6 centimeters has fallen. Now, the average, I was looking at it in October,
You know, normally you're supposed to get, not normally, but it generally is rain. Most of it is rain, 63.3 millimeters climatology-wise. That's what it normally calls for. And 19 centimeters. That was surpassed in one day in October. And so far, we are well on the way to see more snow, especially for Happy Valley Goose Bay into Labrador City as well. Special weather statement already in effect, including Cartwright. We could see quite significant snowfall over the next couple of days again, and that's because of a system that is moving through. So we're going to see that start as rain for at least most of the island anyway tomorrow night, and then snow up through Labrador, and that's going to continue to push through into the early morning hours on Wednesday. Heavy rain expected again for parts of the island, and then continue right through Wednesday as that continues to track further east along with that snow for Labrador. We could see some rain mixed in along the straits and then change back over to snow by the time Thursday rolls around, with higher elevations along the coast as well. We get into that onshore flow again on Thursday, and we could see that potential for showers and even flurries in the higher elevations. So if we take a look at the amount of snow expected, somewhere between, right now this is early, but somewhere between 20 to even 30 centimeters of snow is possible through Labrador. But temperatures with this next system for the island, another warm day on Wednesday. Temperatures reaching 13 degrees for Corner Brook, 12 in Grand Falls, Windsor. St. John's could see another high of 15 degrees on Wednesday. And then again, 20 to 30 centimeters of snow expected between Lab City and Happy Valley Goose Bay, and then towards Cartwright as well, sitting around 2 degrees. Now that could be either rain, or rather snow to start, and then change over to rain likely later on in the day. So take a look at a outlook for the next couple of days. 15 degrees is, again, I mentioned on Wednesday is that high. Those temperatures near seasonal by the time Thursday rolls around. More sunshine as well, and then Friday we dip back down below seasonal, sitting about 4 degrees. Saturday it looks like some more showers are on the way. For Western Newfoundland, it's going to be windy again for Wednesday. That snow, or rather Port aux Basques, looking at high winds upwards of about 100 kilometers per hour in the Wreck House area, and then again that drop in temperatures. Same for central Newfoundland. Temperature on Wednesday and even into Thursday, 14 degrees is possible, and then Friday 4 degrees, and then into Labrador again. That's where we're going to see most of that snowfall. 10 to 15 centimeters just falling tomorrow night, more on Wednesday, and then into eastern Labrador, 20 to 30 centimeters looks likely. So that's a look at your outlook. I will have your weather photo coming up after the break.
we didn't get to see the picture before we went to the break, but
That's
you
right.
have a dandy waiting for us.
Beautiful photo. Take a look at this
Wow.
sunrise. West Coast.
Yep. West Coast. How far?
Is it fresh or salt water? Give us a hint.
I believe it's salt water.
Is that ice?
Well, that might be a bad.
That's not ice, is it?
No,
Sand.
no,
That's
no,
why I was
no,
asking.
no.
Conroy Valley.
Nope.
Oh.
So we saw a picture of the damage. This was before the damage, Stephenville,
Stephenville
crossing there. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so this was a gorgeous sunrise, courtesy of Kayla Downey. Thank you for sending that in. If you have any weather photos you'd like to share with us, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Yeah. A little more highbrow than pictures of toilets, too, which is a nice way to end.
Right, and I
like
messed
this,
up
right?
his name. It was Keith Whiteway. Sorry. Thank you for sending that in.
Thank you, Keith. See you tomorrow.
Good night.
See you all tomorrow.